In this video I'm going to show you a couple more of the features of Smart Edit, including the remove segment and also some of the join functionality that's available to you. This is an example of a project that I looked at a few months back, where the corridor model, basically this is an alignment going through here for a large trench, and the trench is quite wide, and then it has a series of benches that come out to existing, and the benches had to be wide enough to be able to get a wick drain machine onto the benches. And I was asked to help look at designing this and working through it. Now the corridor model always suffers when these lines are angular lines. When you have an angle corner, when you look on the inside of the corner, you get these overlaps, because from this segment they project perpendicular this way, and then from this segment they project perpendicular this way. So on the internal corner you get these overlaps. And on the outside corner, unless you put a curve into the main line, which I did, you can see there's a small curve here, then on the outside it will calculate around the curve and compensate for the fact there's a gap, because in the same way you project out from here and then you project out from here at that same tangent point, and you end up with this wedge where there's no data calculated in the offset lines, unless you put a curve in here and densify through that curve to make sure that you get enough points to define the benching pattern on the outside of the curve. And the same applies up here. So you end up with this 3D line work, which is okay, but you've got to do a lot of editing to make this into a model. And we use this as a test case for some of the Smart Edit functionality to see how well we could make this work. What makes it worse though is when you look at this in 3D, not only do you get these wedge problems, but if you take a look at this, the data over here, you'll find that when this calculates, because of the way the ground is working, sometimes the elevation projection calculates here, and then sometimes it projects down here. You'll find that you get maybe double lines in some places. You'll get these little sloping lines coming down. It gives you a lot of segments like these ones here and here and here you need to remove. Now you can possibly live with those, but these benches are near vertical, and so the more you leave in here, the more likely you are to get some issues in your final model. So sometimes you want to edit this in 2D, and sometimes you want to work in 3D, because you can't see these vertical lines in the 2D mode. You have to go into the 3D view to be able to see them. So we added functionality into Smart Edit to kind of fix up this kind of data problem, and this is a good example of how something like Smart Edit works, because you're not always removing segment, you're not always adding segments, you're not always joining lines, you're moving between those options all the time. And so this is where the hotkey functionality of TBC's, of our Smart Edit command, really comes into its own. So to start off with, when you start looking at editing this data, I'm going to run Smart Edit here. So again, I'm going to go up into the modeling or data prep menu, pick Smart Edit. And if you feel like you need to run draw as well, then you might run the draw command as well, and then you can toggle between the commands easily just using the toggle command function down at the bottom here. Once you're in the break mode or in the Smart Edit mode, you might want to go into like remove segment mode, and in remove segment mode then you want to just click on the segment with a single click and remove it. Now in the plan view we can determine very easily which is the segment you want to remove. In the 3D view, TBC has real problems with that, but we've tried to solve it by giving you the ability to see the line direction, and then you have to pick the end of the line, the end of the line segment that you're trying to remove. And you'll see that in just a minute when I go into 3D. But to remove some of these segments here that you want to get rid of, to kind of tidy this stuff up as a starting point, it's as simple as just clicking on the line and it will remove the segment for you. Now you can turn off the line marking if you want to be quicker, because the line marking is kind of refreshing, and in this case the line markings kind of get in the way, and so you can override the standard line marking of TBC, and you can toggle them off down here to clear them, and now they won't show up at all. So now we can just quickly run through here with no regen time whatsoever, because we're not trying to regenerate the line markings, because every time we make an edit to the lines it's going to go off and try to fix that. So we're going to go through here and you just basically keep clicking on these segments until you clean them up. And that's that lot done there, and then you come on to the next one. So again you just do the same thing on here very quickly. Cleaning out these segments to get rid of them. And we try to make this as quick and as easy as possible, so single click to edit these for each line. So once you've got rid of these, up here you'd have some more, so again you would click on each of these to get rid of them until you got rid of those, and then do the same thing on these ones like this. And that's how you would edit these kind of lines up. You do the same thing over here. Now once you've done those, then you would then switch maybe into 3D mode, and now you want to remove some of these line segments over here. Next, this is where in TBC if you click here it might remove the segment before or the segment after, and it's a bit of a crapshoot as to which one it does. And so one of the things that you want to be able to do in here is when you click on a line segment, it highlights the direction in the 3D view. So we know this is the direction of the line, and then we just click on the end of the line here. So we click on the line to pick it. So we first of all we pick the line, and then we click on the node that we want to remove, this one, and that gets rid of it and leaves that little segment in place. So it's a two-click function, and it toggles between the lines. So here you get to pick the line and pick the segment, so you don't have to know which end of the line or whatever you're trying to remove. If you find that you click in the wrong place, again just go back into the starting point, click on here, and then you want to make sure you click on the line close to the end of the previous segment that you want to get rid of. So again, go to this one, and again zoom in on this and click on the segment end here. Now if you don't show the line markings are necessary, you can set them to be more transparent. So if I go into line markings here and I go into the show direction settings, show direction here, I can change the transparency of the arrows. So I'm going to just make this 50% transparent or something, that way I can see through them, and when I pick the next line you'll see that. But then you have to click on the line and click on the segment that you want to remove, and basically just run through this. So click on the line and it tells you the line direction, which is what you need to know which end of the line you're going to click. So again, very quickly in here I can run through these and click on the segment end that I want to get rid of. And work our way through that. So the line editing functions here make it pretty easy to go through this and edit out the segments that you definitely want to get rid of. And then once you've done that, you can then jump from the edit mode into the join mode. So you hit the J for join, and now you can go into the join functionality and say you want to join simple mode, which will just put a line segment between these. You could say join by mean and move the endpoints to the mean location and join at the mean location, but I'm going to use the simple mode. And then all you're going to do here is you're going to go between line 1 and line 2. So you turn off the sticky button right here, and now you can click on line 1, line 2, and it will just join those across for you. So line 1, line 2, and then line 1, line 2, and this allows you to join them pretty quickly through here. So pick on the line, pick on the segment, pick on the line, pick on the segment, and that's joined those together. And again, you can just keep going through here until you're done with the lines as you see fit. So very quickly you can use these commands like in the 2D view or in the 3D view to join things together, to break lines, to remove segments, to kind of make these lines continuous. We don't have to pick them up in sequence. We can do them pretty much in any order between lines, which makes it extremely quick to modify and edit these lines. When you're looking at these lines up here and you start looking at how do I make these kind of join together, one of the things that you might want to do in here is you can see the step pattern in here, and you might want to change the colors of some of these lines so you can see which are the toes of slopes and which are the tops of slopes. So I might go into here and then just switch into properties mode and say if I pick all the tops of these benches right here, I won't do them all, but I'm just going to change these to blue. So I'll make them a blue color. And then I'll do the bottoms of benches like these. And let's make those red. Then you do the same thing on these other lines going over here, so you would try to find the same basic information in here. So this is a toe, this is a toe, this is a toe, and you can see them better when you look at the step lines like this here. So toe, toe, like that, and let's make those again, make those red. I think I did those red, didn't I? Yeah, red. So let's do that red, and then do the same thing for the tops on these ones. So you'd say this is a top, this is a top, make that a top, make that a top, 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 and you would just go through all of these and make those blue. And you might want to relayer them too, so that way you're then only editing the tops or the bottoms. Now once you've done that, then you might want to go back into here, and in this case you might want to use the join function, but this time you're going to use maybe join, and you're going to say you want to trim and extend. So here you can say I want to join at the intersection of two lines. You can put in the join distance. I'm going to put in 25 feet here, or you can put in 100 feet, whatever you might want. And at that point then you can say, okay, now I want to join these lines together. So I want to find two lines. So this one, for instance, this here is a toe line going through here, and this is a toe line, so I didn't color that one. But if I go into this and say, okay, let's pick line, I'm going to go through this and pick line 1 and line 2, and it trims and extends those back and joins them together, or it should, depending on whether those are actually crossing in space. When you find like two, like these two here, you would pick, for example, this line and this line. Now if you don't have sufficient length of line, then you might need to use the break at intersection, for example. So then you would use, let's say you go to break mode, and in this case you'd say break simple and intersecting lines, and then you would say I've only got one intersecting line, so you're going to say, okay, I want to break, which line do you want to break? So I want to break this one at this line, and at that point there you'd hit the apply button, and it would break the line at that intersection there. So you can very quickly break the lines and join them across these intersection locations. So in this case I'm going to use the crossing point when I'm doing intersections here. And now I'm going to pick the source line. Excuse me. I start again here. I pick the source line and the target line, and at that point it pops up and tells me what the two elevations are, and I can choose whether I want to use the highest, the lowest, or the mean, or the first or the second. So I can type in a value. So I can say use a mean value and say OK, and at that point now those two lines get trimmed back and joined into a common location, so that I can do the next two. So I pick this line and this line. At that point now it does the same thing, and I can just keep going through these until I get all these lines joined together. So I want to take this one and this one. Now I want to do this one and this one, and you just keep going, this one and this one. And then when it gives you values in here, the values are different. You just say I want to use the mean, and it will then calculate the value of those two locations. You pick this one and this one, which values do you want? So these ones have got a slightly different elevation. I'll take the mean again and say OK. And all it does is it just changes the elevation of both ends of the lines so they match up at the point where they come together. And if they already match, it doesn't stop and ask you. So you just get an independent check here each time when you get to it. And if you don't like the elevations it's presenting, you can always type in your own for those as you go. Now sometimes you might get a line like that where it's got a varying, this one kind of loops around itself, so maybe that's not a good one to do, and you might need to do something with that one by hand. And as you go through these you'll find the odd one that maybe doesn't work quite right, or where the elevations are quite different between the two ends, and you want to kind of not do those in an automated way. But you can see here very quickly I can pick line 1, line 2, set the elevation and say OK, and then it basically trims and extends the two lines and joins them together. And you can move through this very quickly, and you can see as you do this the benching pattern just evolves and comes to life as you go through this. So by cleaning up these different modes you can do this extremely quickly. This job, for example, took me several hours to do when I first did it without this tool, and now with Smart Edit I can do this in 20 minutes or so. So it's a way quicker way of editing up complicated data, and the fact you can just move between modes. So like if I go back into the plan view and go back into remove segment mode, so just hit R for remove segment, and then I'm just starting to just click on these lines to get rid of these segments that I want to get rid of. It's very quick and easy to do. And when it has multiples on top of each other, very quickly you can pick those and get rid of them. And you know how many there are as you're doing it, so it's very quick and easy to do these in 2D. And again, once you've seen this in this view and you think you've got it somewhat cleaned up and you're kind of somewhat happy with it, then you can pop this open up in 3D view and just see whether you've actually got what you wanted and whether there's still stuff that you need to go in and clean out as you go through this. But this is again getting close to being what I wanted. So again, in here I can pick the end of the segment here that I want to get rid of. If I'm in the 3D view, I can actually see those sometimes a little easier this way. But it's 2 clicks in the 3D view and 1 click in the plan view. And again, I can just start coming through here and find any last remaining segments that I want to get rid of. And then I can just switch back into join mode to fix these up. Yeah, so those are pretty much all done now, and then I would come back and I would start joining those together and finishing up making up my surface models as I see fit. Yeah, so that's pretty efficiently done, and then I would just come back in and then start using the join command to finish these up and get them joined together. And it's this kind of thing where you get these lines are at slightly different elevations, or in this case this one's kicking back. Again, you're not sure which direction it goes, so you can just click on the line and go in and delete the bits that you think you might not need. But again, it's trying to stay in one command, trying to move rapidly between the different modes to get the job done, so you're not having to always run the break command and the join command and the break command and the join command all afternoon. You basically can stay in the command and just use one hotkey to move between the modes and start cleaning up this data until you get it to the point where you've actually got a finished model that you can work with. Thank you.